I complimented her dress. The alien woman's reaction surprised me. Alex had never considered himself a very social person. He preferred quiet mornings with a cup of coffee, the smell of fresh pages in a book, and long walks where he could think without interruption. Yet, there he was, standing in the middle of the grand lobby of the city's art gallery, surrounded by people laughing, talking, and moving between displays. The night was buzzing with excitement. A mixture of sophistication and curiosity, the kind that made Alex both nervous and intrigued. He had come alone, telling himself he wanted to see the new exhibition without distraction. It was called The Interwoven World, featuring artists from across the globe, each trying to capture life, emotion, and culture in a single frame or sculpture. For Alex, art had always been a quiet companion. He didn't always understand it, but it made him feel something he couldn't quite explain. Still, he had never imagined he would meet someone who would make him question not just the art, but reality itself. As he moved slowly along the polished marble floor, taking in the paintings and sculptures, his eyes caught a sudden flash of color. A woman was standing near a tall sculpture, examining it carefully. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. She looked human enough, but her dress, it was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The fabric shimmered, reflecting light in a way that seemed almost alive. Tiny ripples of color danced across it as she shifted slightly, as if the dress was responding to her emotions, or perhaps to the mood of the room itself. Alex found himself staring longer than he intended, from the stage. Something about her presence drew him in. She had an air of quiet confidence, yet there was curiosity in the way she looked at the art, as if she were seeing it for the first time but understanding it deeply at the same time. Her hair, a soft silver with streaks of blue, framed her face perfectly. And her eyes, well, her eyes were the kind that felt like they could see right through you, but in a way that was comforting, not intimidating. Feeling a little foolish, Alex told himself to move along, but he couldn't. There was something almost magnetic about her, something that made him want to talk to her, to know who she was. He hesitated, glancing around at the other guests, wondering if it would seem strange to approach her. But then he remembered the simple advice his mother used to give him whenever he was uncertain. Sometimes, a kind word is all it takes. Gathering his courage, Alex walked over. "Excuse me," he said, trying to sound casual. "I just wanted to say—"
"Your dress is amazing. I've never seen anything like it."
For a moment, she didn't respond. Alex felt a twinge of regret, wondering if he had said something wrong, if his comment had come across as strange or rude. But then she looked at him, her eyes widening slightly. There was a pause, a silence that felt heavier than the hum of the gallery around them. Alex shifted nervously. I mean, it's beautiful."
"Really? The colors?"
"They're incredible." She tilted her head, studying him. Then, slowly, she smiled. But it was not a simple, polite smile. It was a smile that seemed to hold surprise, curiosity, and something else he couldn't quite identify. Her lips moved, forming words, but they were unfamiliar. Alex thought he heard a soft musical tone in her voice, a rhythm that was oddly soothing. Finally, she spoke in English, though her accent was delicate and precise, almost melodic. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but clear.
"You notice?"
Not many notice. Alex blinked, caught off guard.
"Oh, well, I really mean it. It's different."
In a good way. Her eyes brightened slightly, and she gave a small nod. Alex felt a strange warmth, a connection that was beyond explanation. He wanted to say more, to ask her questions, but he didn't want to make her uncomfortable. Curiosity pushed him forward. Does your dress change like that all the time?
He asked cautiously, pointing to the shimmering fabric.
She looked down at herself, then back at him. It responds, she said slowly.
The light to feeling.
2. Attention. Alex frowned slightly, trying to understand. Attention?
Yes, she replied, almost shyly.
When someone really looks, it responds.
She paused as if unsure whether to say more. Then, in a softer voice, you looked. Alex felt a sudden rush of embarrassment and wonder at the same time.
I guess I did, he said, laughing nervously. I didn't mean to. I just thought it was beautiful. She smiled again, this time with a quiet amusement. There was something about the way she carried herself, a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Alex realized he had never met anyone quite like her. Not in the gallery, not in his life. There was a depth to her presence that made him feel both small and significant at the same time. For several moments they stood in silence, watching other guests move around the gallery. Alex felt a strange mixture of anticipation and hesitation. Part of him wanted to ask everything about her, where she came from, what she was doing here, why her dress was so extraordinary. But another part of him feared that asking too much would break the delicate connection forming between them. Finally, he took a deep breath. I'm Alex, he said, holding out his hand. She looked at his hand for a moment, then slowly extended hers. It was warm, soft, and surprisingly strong. Lyra, she said, her voice carrying a musical quality that made the name linger in the air. Lyra, Alex repeated, testing the sound.
That's a beautiful name.
Thank you, she replied, with another small nod. Then she glanced back at the art, as if to change the subject, but Alex sensed she was waiting for him to continue the conversation. He smiled, feeling a little more confident.
Are you enjoying the exhibit? He asked.
Some of the pieces, well, they're kind of overwhelming.
Lyra's eyes twinkled. Yes.
Overwhelming in a good way. Different from home, but good.
Alex paused. Different from home. She hesitated, then laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes.
I come from far, she said carefully, as if testing the words. Far away. Alex frowned, unsure if he had understood correctly.
Far like another country? He asked. Lyra shook her head slightly. Far?
Far.
Not same as you.
She smiled, but it was a smile that seemed to hold a secret she wasn't ready to share. Alex's curiosity flared, but he kept his expression calm.
He didn't want to scare her away. I see, he said slowly.
Well, it's nice to meet someone from far away. It makes the evening more interesting. Her smile widened, and for a brief moment, Alex felt a connection that went beyond words. She didn't just respond to compliments. She responded to attention, to genuine curiosity, to kindness. And for reasons he couldn't explain, Alex felt that this encounter was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The gallery continued to hum around them. But for Alex, time seemed to slow. He noticed details he had never seen before. The way the light hit the polished floor, the subtle shimmer of her dress, the quiet strength in her posture. Every small movement seemed meaningful, almost intentional, and he found himself leaning in, eager to learn more, yet careful not to rush. Lyra, for her part, seemed equally engaged. She tilted her head, examined the art, and occasionally glanced at Alex, as if gauging his reactions. There was a gentle curiosity in her eyes, a kind of intelligence that was both foreign and deeply human. Alex realized that he was drawn not just to her appearance, but to the mystery she carried, the sense that she had stories to tell, experiences he could barely imagine. As the evening wore on, Alex felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He didn't know what would happen next. Would she leave soon? Would he ever see her again? And yet, despite the uncertainty, he felt a spark of something extraordinary, a connection that transcended ordinary conversation, a moment that was rare and fleeting. And so, standing there in the middle of the gallery, Alex made a silent promise to himself, to pay attention, to be present, and to see where this unexpected encounter might lead. He didn't know it yet, but the simple act of complimenting her dress had opened a door to a world he never knew existed, a world where curiosity, kindness, and attention could reveal secrets beyond imagination. Alex felt a strange excitement as he stood near Lyra, watching her study the artwork. Her dress continued to shimmer in subtle waves, changing colors as if it had a mind of its own.
He couldn't stop noticing it.
Each flicker of light seemed to reflect not just her movements, but something deeper, something emotional, that he couldn't yet understand.
Your dress?
Alex began, unsure if he should say more. It's really unusual.
I've never seen anything like it. Lyra turned toward him, her eyes soft and careful, as if she were weighing his words.
She gave a small smile, one that made him feel as if she were acknowledging something invisible between them. You notice more than others, she said, her voice quiet, almost musical. Many, they only see the surface. Alex tilted his head. The surface? He asked.
What do you mean? Lyra paused, looking down at her dress. It shows something.
Not just pretty, shows feelings. She hesitated.
If someone cares or notices, it changes. Alex stared at her, trying to understand. He had seen color-changing dresses before in exhibitions or in advertisements, but this was different.
Her dress seemed alive, reacting to him personally. It wasn't just a trick of the lights. It felt personal.
I think I understand, Alex said slowly.
You mean it responds to the person looking at it, to how they feel?
Yes, she said softly, her lips curving into a small, almost shy smile, like communication.
Without words.
Alex's curiosity grew stronger. That's
incredible. Does it do this for everyone? Lyra shook her head. No, only if they notice. Really notice.
She glanced at him with an expression that made him feel both nervous and honored. You notice.
Not just words. Eyes. Feeling. Alex swallowed. He felt a strange warmth spread across him, a mix of excitement and nervousness.
He hadn't expected a simple compliment to lead to this.
Somehow, it felt like he had stumbled into a world completely different from his own, a world where attention and care could be felt visually, almost physically. He wanted to ask more questions, but he didn't want to scare her. Instead, he decided to explore carefully, learning slowly, step by step.
Do you do this often? He asked.
Coming to galleries, seeing people. Lyra considered for a moment, tilting her head as if choosing her words. Not often. Sometimes to learn humans, to see how they feel.
Alex felt a shiver of curiosity.
Learn humans? He repeated, unsure if he had heard her correctly. Yes, she said softly. To see what is normal and
what is emotion? How humans show themselves.
She looked at him carefully, then added, almost shyly, and how? They notice.
Alex tried not to stare, but her words made him feel like he had walked into a puzzle he didn't fully understand. She wasn't rude or strange in a scary way. She was different. There was a thoughtfulness in everything she did, a careful curiosity in her gaze, a grace in her movements that felt intentional and purposeful. For a while, they walked together along the exhibition, moving slowly from one piece of art to another. Alex found himself watching not just the paintings and sculptures, but Lyra. Every time she turned, her dress shimmered in a slightly new pattern, colors flowing like a quiet river. When she paused to study a painting, the light caught her dress in a way that made it seem almost alive, a living expression of her thoughts.
Alex realized he was no longer just looking at her dress.
He was noticing her as a whole. Her careful gestures, the way she tilted her head when she thought, the small but deliberate pauses in her speech, the gentle way she moved her hands when she explained something. Everything about her seemed designed to communicate, but not in the way humans normally communicated. "Why do you move like that?" Alex asked carefully. "The way you use your hands and eyes, it's different." Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting a soft amusement. "Different, yes. Not Jay, same as humans. But I try to understand." She paused. "But some cannot understand. Why different?" Alex nodded slowly, feeling a mix of awe and curiosity. "I think I understand some of it," he said. "At least, I'm trying." Lyra's smile widened slightly, her dress shimmering in gentle waves of green and blue. "Trying is enough," she said. "Many do not try." They continued walking, Alex careful to keep the conversation light, but his mind was racing. He had never met anyone so different, yet so approachable, so human in a way that mattered. There was a rhythm to her speech, a melody that made ordinary words feel special. He felt drawn to her, not just because of her appearance, but because of the strange, quiet honesty in the way she expressed herself. At one point, they stopped near a sculpture that looked like a twisting silver tree. Alex admired it quietly, but he noticed Lyra studying it in a different way. She touched the surface lightly, not roughly, but with careful attention. Her fingers hovered just above it at times, as if feeling something invisible. "Does it feel like something?" Alex asked softly. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, feelings, not just shapes. Energy, what it tells?" Alex frowned, unsure if he fully understood. "Energy? Like the artist's feeling?" "Yes," she said simply, "and what it wants to show. Humans sometimes cannot see, but I can feel." She looked at him, her eyes soft but intense. "You feel some too." Alex felt a strange shiver, not from fear but from awe. He realized that Lyra was not just observing the world, she was interacting with it in a way he could barely comprehend. Her awareness, her perception, seemed to reach beyond ordinary senses, blending sight, emotion, and intuition. He wanted to ask more, but he also wanted to respect her space. Instead, he asked simple questions, careful not to press too hard.
Do you
"Like it here?" Lyra tilted her head, considering. "Yes. Interesting. Humans, so many ways to feel. So many small things, big meaning." She paused, and some humans notice rare. She looked at Alex with a quiet intensity that made him feel seen.
You, notice! Alex's heart raced. I try, he said, his voice soft. I really try. Lyra's dress shimmered brighter, colors flowing in gentle waves.
She gave him a small nod, a gesture of acknowledgement that felt more meaningful than words. For a moment, Alex felt like he was part of something rare, a fleeting connection that existed in this gallery, in this moment, and nowhere else. They moved on to another part of the exhibit, a series of paintings filled with abstract shapes and vibrant colors. Alex tried to interpret them, but he found himself distracted by Lyra's reactions. She tilted her head, touched the air lightly with her fingers, and sometimes whispered softly in a language he didn't understand. Yet he could feel her excitement, her curiosity, her appreciation for the art in a way that transcended language. "You understand?" she asked suddenly, turning to him. Alex shook his head slowly. "Not exactly, but I see you feel it. I think I understand that much." She smiled again, a small, quiet smile that made his chest feel warm. That enough. Sometimes humans need to try, only little. Small step. They walked together for what felt like hours, though Alex knew it could not have been that long. The gallery was filled with people, but it was as if they existed in a separate bubble. For him, the evening had become a quiet adventure, a journey of discovery, not just about the art, but about this strange, fascinating woman who seemed to move in ways he could barely comprehend. At one point, Lyra stopped near a painting of a calm river, its surface reflecting the soft colors of a sunset. She leaned slightly forward, her eyes studying the brushstrokes carefully. Alex watched her, noticing how her dress seemed to mirror the painting, the soft oranges and purples shifting across the fabric in gentle waves. "You
"Match it," he said softly, almost laughing at the thought. Lyra looked at him, her eyes twinkling. "Lyra, ma, ma, ma."
Yes, sometimes we respond. Berry, berry.
All part. Connection.
Alex felt a thrill of curiosity mixed with awe.
Connection?
Yes, she said, her voice soft, melodic. Everything connected.
People, feelings, but things, energy. Some cannot see, but I can. And some human small pause. You notice small.
Alex smiled, feeling both nervous and honored.
He had never met anyone who noticed things the way Lyra did, and he realized that this simple evening, this small act of paying attention, had opened a doorway into a world he could not have imagined. As the gallery lights dimmed slightly, signaling the end of the evening, Alex felt a strange reluctance to leave. He didn't know what would happen next, or if he would ever see Lyra again. Yet, despite the uncertainty, he felt a deep sense of connection, a quiet understanding that sometimes the smallest gestures, a compliment, a look, a moment of attention, could mean more than words ever could. Lyra turned to him, her dress glowing softly in the fading light. "Thank you," she said, her voice gentle, "for noticing." Alex smiled, feeling a warmth that lingered long after her words. "Thank you for letting me notice," he replied. And with that, the evening drew to a close, leaving Alex with a sense of wonder, curiosity, and a quiet hope that this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. After the gallery began to empty, Alex and Lyra found themselves lingering near a quiet corner, away from the remaining guests. The soft hum of distant conversation and the faint sound of footsteps on the polished floor made the space feel almost private. Alex realized that this was the moment where their conversation could move beyond the surface, beyond art and dresses, and maybe touch something deeper.
So,
Alex began, trying to sound casual. You said you come from far away. Far as in another country?
Lyra shook her head slowly, her silver blue hair catching the fading light.
Not country, she said softly, choosing each word carefully. Far from different place. Not Earth. Far. Alex blinked, caught between disbelief and fascination. Not Earth? He repeated, unsure if he had heard correctly. Yes, she said simply, as if stating something obvious. Far away, my home. Different. Different life, different ways. Alex felt his heart race. He had been fascinated by her from the start, but now his mind was spinning. He wanted to ask everything at once, but he knew that would overwhelm her. Instead, he took a slow breath. Different, like a different planet? Lyra nodded gently. Yes, planet. Not same, humans. Not same ways, think, feel, move. She looked at him carefully, her eyes searching his face for understanding. But I try... Understand humans. Learn... Feelings. Learn. Ways. Alex leaned back slightly, amazed. He had always imagined meeting someone from another planet, only in stories, movies, or dreams. Yet here she was, standing quietly in front of him, her dress shifting colors in response to his gaze, and speaking with a calm honesty that made him want to believe every word. So, he said slowly, your dress? It's part of your culture? Lyra smiled faintly. Yes. Dress shows feelings, who's who I am, without words. Where I come from, everyone wears, tells each something. Not just clothing. Communication. Alex's curiosity deepened. So it... changes with feelings? Yes, she said, her voice soft and melodic. Colors. Light. Light. Changes, emotions show through it. She hesitated. Some humans do not see, but you.
Notice. Alex felt a rush of warmth.
Try, he said quietly. I notice because I want to. Lyra's eyes glimmered, and for a brief moment, he felt that she understood him in a way no one else had. Trying enough, she said. Many humans cannot see. Miss details, feelings. Alex nodded slowly, realizing that this small evening, the simple act of complimenting her dress, had opened a window into her world. What is it like on your planet? He asked, careful not to rush. Lyra tilted her head, considering. Different life, slower, yet faster. Everyone connected. Not always. With words, with feelings, with colors, with energy. We paused, as if testing his understanding. We see more than shades. No. In different ways. Alex frowned slightly, trying to grasp her words. Energy like how someone feels? Yes, and more, she said softly. Life, all connected. Feel feelings of others. Communicate without speech. She gave a small smile, almost shyly. Humans not same yet. Some can feel small. You feel. Alex's mind raced. He wanted to understand her completely, but even as he tried, he realized that this was impossible. He could only notice, only pay attention, only respond. I think I do, he said softly. I notice. I try. Lyra nodded, her dress shimmering slightly brighter, ripples of soft green and blue moving across the fabric. Good. Trying. That means something. She glanced around the gallery, now almost empty. I glad came here. Do humans not rush, not ignore. Alex felt an unusual calm. It was as if talking to her slowed time, made everything around them quieter and more important. I'm glad you talked to me, he admitted. I didn't know what would happen, but she smiled faintly. Sometimes small words, small actions mean much. She paused. Like you compliment, but small, but noticed. Meaning? Alex laughed softly. I didn't think it would mean so much. It did, she said simply. For me, small. Human, noticing. Rare. Her eyes softened. You different? Not ignore. Not pretend. Alex realized that the more they talked, the more he saw her uniqueness, not just in her appearance or her dress or even her origin, but in the way she perceived the world. Every gesture, every word, every glance was layered with intention and meaning, and he felt both challenged and inspired. He decided to ask another question even though he wasn't sure he would understand the answer. Do you get lonely? Lyra's expression changed slightly. There was a hint of sadness, subtle but noticeable, as if the question touched something deep. Sometimes. Yes. Far from home. Different planet, different ways. Humans not always understand ways. Alone. Sometimes. Feel. She looked down briefly, then back at him. But, in static, humans, like you. Notice, help, feel. Connected. Alex felt the lump in his throat. He didn't fully understand her loneliness, but he wanted to offer reassurance. I'm glad I met you tonight, he said softly. I hope it helps. Lyra's dress shimmered in waves of soft gold and lavender, colors he hadn't noticed before. She smiled. A small, genuine smile. Yes, helps. Thank you. They walked slowly toward a quieter part of the gallery, a small seating area near a large window overlooking the city. Outside, the lights of the streets reflected like stars, and the calm night air seemed to echo the quiet connection forming between them. Alex felt a mix of nervousness and wonder, unsure what to say next, but knowing he wanted to stay in this moment for as long as possible. What do you on your planet? He asked gently, trying to keep the conversation light but meaningful. Lyra tilted her head, her gaze thoughtful.
Work, learn, communicate. Not same humans. Not jobs. Yo.
Same. Life. Flow. Feelings. Decisions. Together.
She paused. No, separate, not like humans. Often separate. We, connected. We,
Always. Alex nodded slowly. Connected.
As in, everyone feels. Everyone knows? Everyone knows?
yes, but not all words.
Not all sounds. Feel, know, actions, colors, energy, signals. She looked at him, her eyes intense but patient.
Humans,
Cannot understand. To
Focused, small things. Only see. But some can notice. Small.
like you. Alex felt a deep sense of awe. He realized that Lyra's perception of the world was almost beyond human understanding. Yet he could sense the honesty and care in her words. He wanted to ask more questions, to explore this other world she came from, but he also felt the importance of listening and observing, of noticing the small details she revealed in her own time.
do you miss?
Your planet? He asked quietly, unsure if it was too personal. Lyra nodded slowly, a soft sigh escaping her lips.
Sometimes, yes. Different life.
Family, friends, customs, colors, sounds not same, bed, here, but humans show kindness, noticing, makes feel closer to home. Alex smiled, understanding a little more. I'm glad I could be part of that for tonight. Her dress shimmered gently, flowing in soft patterns of silver and green. She looked at him with quiet intensity.
You small action, big.
For me, many humans do not notice. You notice, and it matters. Alex felt a strange, wonderful feeling, a mix of honor, curiosity, and connection. He had never expected a simple evening at an art gallery to lead to something so extraordinary. And yet, here he was, sitting next to a woman who claimed to be from another world, feeling a bond that transcended ordinary understanding. The night deepened, and the gallery staff began gently ushering the last visitors out.
Alex and Lyra stood near the exit, both reluctant to leave the small bubble of quiet connection they had created.
Alex knew that this was more than just a chance encounter. It was a moment that could shape his understanding of people, of life, of the invisible threads that connected them all.
Lyra looked at him, her expression soft but serious.
Tomorrow, humans continue.
Busy, forget small things.
But tonight, remember,
Noticing feelings, connection, rare.
Ort.
Alex nodded, feeling a weight and a wonder in her words.
Ow.
Remember, he said.
I promise. She smiled faintly, the colors of her dress glowing softly, as if echoing her thoughts. Good.
Promise means much.
And with that, they parted, walking toward separate exits.
Alex felt a mix of awe, excitement, and curiosity.
He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that this night, this simple act of noticing, listening, and connecting had changed him in a way he could never forget. The city streets outside the gallery were quiet now, lit by soft yellow lights that reflected off the wet pavement from a light drizzle earlier in the evening. Alex walked slowly, replaying every moment of the night in his mind. Every gesture, every word, every shimmer of Lyra's dress seemed to carry more meaning than he could put into words. He realized that a simple compliment had led him into something far more extraordinary than he could have imagined. Even as he moved away from the gallery, he felt the pull of curiosity, the need to understand. But the more he thought about Lyra, the more he realized that some things were not meant to be fully understood. There was a mystery to her, a sense of depth that he could notice, appreciate, and respect, but never completely grasp. And somehow, that made the experience even more precious. He thought about her words, how she had explained her planet, her culture, and the way her dress could express emotions. The idea of a world where people could communicate without words, where feelings, energy, and colors intertwined, was hard for him to fully imagine. But as he recalled her shimmering dress and the subtle ways she had responded to him, he began to feel that perhaps there were other ways of perceiving the world that humans simply forgot to notice.
Alex paused near a small cafe, the warm light spilling out into the night.
He leaned against a railing, taking a deep breath, and thought about Lyra's smile.
It had been gentle but significant, like a signal that transcended ordinary conversation.
He realized that her presence had reminded him of something he had almost forgotten, that attention, curiosity, and small acts of kindness were powerful in ways words could rarely capture. He remembered her saying that humans sometimes forget the small things, that most people didn't notice subtle details, small signals, or quiet emotions, and he realized that he had been lucky. He had noticed her, really noticed her. And in doing so, he had participated in a rare and meaningful connection. He felt grateful, not just for her presence, but for the way she had shown him a glimpse of a world beyond ordinary human perception. As he walked slowly through the empty streets, Alex began to imagine what life would have been like if she had stayed in the gallery without him noticing her. Would her shimmering dress have gone unnoticed? Would she have felt the subtle isolation she hinted at earlier? The thought made him feel a quiet responsibility, a sense that his simple act of complimenting her had meant more than he could have ever predicted. Alex stopped at a bridge overlooking the river. The water reflected the city lights in rippling waves, and he felt a calm settle over him.
It was as if the world itself was quieting to let him process everything he had experienced.
He thought about the way Lyra had described her planet, a place where life and energy were interconnected, where feelings and colors were part of communication, where attention and perception mattered more than words. The thought was mesmerizing, almost impossible to fully comprehend, but he felt a sense of wonder, as if he had touched something extraordinary. He found himself smiling quietly, remembering how she had said that even small humans, by noticing, could make a difference. Alex realized that he hadn't just given a compliment, he had acknowledged her existence in a meaningful way, and in return, she had acknowledged him, not as a human, but as someone who had taken the time to truly see. A soft breeze moved across the bridge, ruffling his hair, and he imagined Lyra standing there with him, her dress shimmering under the faint streetlights. He wondered if she had already returned to her world, or if she was still moving quietly through the city, observing, learning, noticing. The thought both excited and saddened him. He didn't know if he would ever see her again, and yet he felt grateful that he had experienced this unusual, beautiful encounter. Alex thought about the way she had described her loneliness, how even beings from faraway worlds could feel isolated in a new environment. And he realized that connection, attention, and understanding, small though they might seem, were universal. They mattered, whether one was from Earth or a distant planet. Her perspective had given him a profound insight. Noticing, truly noticing, was an act of empathy, an act of kindness, and an act of courage. He remembered the shimmering colors of her dress, how they had responded not just to light but to attention, to perception, to genuine care. And he realized that this was symbolic in a way he could understand, that even the smallest gestures, when offered with sincerity, could create ripples of meaning that were invisible to most but powerful nonetheless. For a long moment, Alex leaned on the railing, gazing at the river and thinking about the night. He thought about the simple act that had started it all. A compliment. How small and ordinary it had seemed at the time. And yet, it had opened a door to an encounter that he would never forget. He realized that some moments are rare and fragile, existing on the edge of ordinary life, waiting for attention, curiosity, and kindness to make them real. He remembered the way Lyra had explained the connection of her world, how energy, color, and emotion were intertwined. He thought about how she had said that humans sometimes cannot see these connections, but that small gestures, small acts of noticing, could bridge worlds. And he felt a quiet gratitude, a sense that even in a city full of strangers, attention and presence mattered, that his acknowledgement of her had mattered. As he walked back toward his apartment, Alex reflected on the mystery that surrounded her. He didn't know whether she was truly from another planet or simply someone with a perspective so unique it felt otherworldly, but he realized that the distinction didn't matter. What mattered was what he had learned, what he had felt, and the quiet, meaningful connection they had shared. He thought about the night as a whole, the gallery, the art, the way Lyra had responded to his presence, the shimmering dress, and the feeling of being seen and understood in a way that transcended ordinary conversation. He realized that the world could be full of surprises, full of moments of wonder, if only people were willing to notice, to pay attention, and to care. Alex reached his apartment and sat by the window, looking out at the city below. The streets were quiet and the lights reflected softly on the pavement. He closed his eyes and imagined Lyra's dress shimmering in the night, colors shifting in response to perception and attention. And he thought about the words she had spoken, the insights she had shared, and the quiet way she had changed his perspective on connection, attention, and empathy. He realized that this night had given him more than a story to tell. It had given him a lesson, a reminder of the power of noticing and the importance of genuine curiosity and care.
He understood that even the smallest gestures, like complimenting someone's dress, could have extraordinary consequences, creating bonds and memories that last far longer than ordinary words could convey.
Alex smiled, thinking that he would carry this experience with him for the rest of his life. He didn't know if he would ever see Lyra again, or if she would continue to move quietly through the city, observing and learning as she had said, but he felt a quiet certainty that he had witnessed something remarkable, something rare, and that he had been part of it, even in a small way. As he closed his eyes, he imagined the shimmer of her dress, the glow of her presence, and the gentle, melodic tone of her voice. And he understood, finally, that some encounters are meant to leave a mark, not because they are fully understood, but because they are noticed, felt, and remembered. Alex realized that the world could hold countless mysteries, and that the most extraordinary experiences often begin with the simplest acts: a smile, a look, a compliment, a moment of genuine attention. And he promised himself that he would never forget the night he met Lyra, the alien woman whose reaction to a simple compliment had opened his eyes to something far greater than ordinary life. The city continued to hum softly below, but for Alex the night was quiet, filled with reflection, curiosity, and wonder. He had experienced something extraordinary, and even though he didn't have all the answers, he felt richer, wiser, and more aware of the unseen threads that connect people, feelings, and perhaps even worlds beyond imagination. And somewhere out there, in a world he could only imagine, Lyra's dress shimmered in response to attention, perception, and connection, just as it had that night, just as it had responded to him. And in that thought, Alex found peace, mystery, and the quiet joy of having truly noticed and having truly been noticed in return.